The Tomb of the Unknown Soldier is one of the most heavily guarded sites on Earth, protected by an elite group of soldiers known as the Sentinels. For over 80 years, these guards have stood watch, their eyes never leaving the tomb for even a moment. Rain, snow, or hurricanes, nothing stops their watch. But why does this tomb demand such relentless protection? Who are these guards trained to perfection? Most importantly, what happens if someone dares to challenge their sacred duty? You're about to find out.
Remain behind the chains rail! Get behind the rail!
And if you ever find yourself at Arlington National Cemetery, you'll spot something impossible to miss. The Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. It's up on a hill with a stunning view of Washington, D.C., and it's not just another tomb, it's a tribute to countless American soldiers who gave everything in war, but whose names and stories we'll never know. The story of the tomb began after the First World War, a time when the country was mourning the loss of thousands of soldiers who were never identified, so the government figured out a way to honor their service. On March 4th, 1921, Congress decided to honor one unknown soldier by giving him a proper burial. This was a way to remember all the men and women who sacrificed their lives without any recognition. They brought the chosen soldier back from an unmarked grave in France. The journey was filled with the utmost respect deserving of the brave soldier who picked the sword for his country. When the remains of the unknown soldier arrived, he was laid in state in the Capitol Rotunda for 2 days. People lined up, over 90,000 of them, coming to pay their respects. From there, he was taken to Arlington, where he was laid to rest in the newly built tomb, now popularly known as the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. The Tomb of the Unknown Soldier is one of the most rigorously protected sites in the world. Its security is comparable to that of the Vatican City in Italy, where the Swiss Guard stands under 24/7 surveillance to protect the Pope and safeguard some of the most sacred religious artifacts in the world.
All visitors will maintain an atmosphere of silence and respect at all times.
The Tomb of the Unknown Soldier is guarded 24/7 by some of the world's most elite soldiers, Sentinels. But it wasn't always so. This sacred site was unguarded until 1925, when civilians were assigned to patrol the site to prevent families from picnicking near the tomb. Then in 1926, military personnel took over, but it wasn't until 1937 that a continuous rotating guard schedule was established. Since then, the tomb has been guarded 24/7 without interruption. The patrol has been unbroken, even through major events like the September 11th attacks, Hurricane Isabel, and a 5.9 magnitude earthquake in 1944. The lives of this elite group of guards have remained a mystery for centuries, everything from their rigorous selection process to the lengths they go to protect the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. From their strict rules and regulations to how they handle tourists who dare to break them, there's a lot more to these fearless soldiers than you think. Ready to take a peek behind the scenes and discover why you should never mess with Guard of the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier? Let's dive in. The selection process for the guards of the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier is a rigorous and highly prestigious journey that demands perfection. First, candidates must be part of the 3rd U.S. Infantry Regiment, known as the Old Guard. But even within this elite unit, only those with exceptional discipline, military bearing, and performance are eligible to apply. Yet fewer than 20% of all volunteers are accepted for training. And that's when the real test begins. Candidates face a 2-week training period designed to introduce them to the intense process ahead. It gets insanely more intense. But not what you would expect. These brave men pass through a training cycle that lasts 6 to 12 months. During this time, they must endure 5 rigorous tests that assess ceremonial performance, uniform preparation, and memorization. Each test pushes candidates to their limits, and one failure could send them back to their unit.
And the tomb guard was perfect. I remember we watched 2 guard changes.
The training process is aimed at nothing but perfection. Trainees must flawlessly execute 7 different ceremonies, prepare uniforms to meet an exact standard, and recite 35 pages of historical and procedural information without a single error. But knowledge and precision aren't enough. They must also demonstrate the mental and physical endurance required to stand guard for hours in all weather conditions. For those who succeed, the reward is a lifetime honor. They earn the Tomb Guard Identification Badge, TGIB, one of the rarest military honors. It's so rare that for over 70 years, only about 700 trainees have been awarded the Tomb Guard Identification Badge. This proves that only the toughest and bravest men receive the honor of guarding the unknown soldiers. So to mess with the Tomb Guard is to challenge the unmatched dedication and insane training they've painstakingly perfected. And trust me, you don't want to be on the receiving end of that. The weapons used by the Tomb Guard aren't just for show. They're fully functional and kept ready for use at all times. Before a new Sentinel assumes their post, there's a real inspection of the weapon. This isn't some ceremonial check. It's a thorough process to ensure the weapon is in perfect condition, ready to defend the sanctity of the tomb. When the Sentinels first took their posts, they carried the iconic M1903 Springfield bolt-action rifle, a relic from World War I. But over time, that rifle was replaced by the M1 Garand, and eventually the M14. Now here's where it gets interesting. The ceremonial stock is still attached to the rifle, a nod to tradition, and this has most people wondering, does that mean the rifle is just for show?
Remain behind the chains and rails! Behind the chains and rails!
Well, they are not. Each rifle has one round chambered just in case. But if the situation gets really bad, the Tomb Sergeant isn't just relying on a single shot. They've got a fully loaded pistol ready for use at all times. And make no mistake, they're fully authorized to shoot anyone who dares disrespect the sanctity of the unknown soldier's tomb. So if you were thinking those rifles are just ceremonial, you'd be better off not testing them. Rain, hurricanes, and even natural disasters have never prevented the Sentinels from performing their duty. One notable example is Hurricane Isabel, which struck in September 2003. While the tomb itself remained undamaged, the storm caused widespread flooding and wind damage across the Washington, D.C. area. But despite the chaos, the guards maintained their vigil. More recently, the January 2024 snowstorm covered Virginia, Maryland, and Washington, D.C. in thick snow, creating unsafe conditions. Schools and federal offices in the Washington, D.C. area were closed. Yet the Sentinels remained undeterred, continuing their solemn watch as they always do. Sentinels follow strict protocols during their shifts, enduring weather extremes in full uniform. Their discipline is so intense that they train for hours to maintain flawless movements. Interruptions or threats to their post are met with a stern warning. See what happens to this lady who tries to defile the rules.
It is requested that all visitors remain behind the chains and rails at all times!
The ceremony to change the guard at the tomb of the unknown soldier is a precise and sacred ritual. Every hour during the winter and every half hour during the summer, soldiers carry out this duty day and night without fail, honoring those who sacrificed everything for the country. Every step, every movement the guard makes is calculated to perfection. The ceremony begins when the relief commander, perfectly uniformed, steps forward to announce the change of guard. The new Sentinel emerging from the Tomb Guard quarters unlocks the bolt of their M14 rifle, signaling the start of the process. The relief commander then steps to the tomb, salutes, and asks the spectators to stand and remain silent. Then he moves on to perform a thorough inspection of the rifle, checking each part carefully. The relieved and relieving Sentinels then meet at the black mat, salute, and honor the unknown soldier. With a simple but important exchange of orders, the new Sentinel takes their place, ready to begin their watch. The Sentinel marches 21 steps behind the tomb, turning to face east and north for 21 seconds at each point. After each turn, they march forward and repeat the process. The number 21 is symbolic, representing the highest military honor, the 21 gun salute. At one point, the Sentinel performs a sharp shoulder arms movement, holding the rifle in a protective stance, ready to defend the tomb. This ceremony is not just a display of military discipline, but a tribute to those who have made the ultimate sacrifice. Visitors are expected to remain silent and still, as any interruption would show disrespect to the memory being honored. As a visitor, you must remain behind the fenced-off viewing area, standing silently for the entire duration. If anyone attempts to approach the tomb or becomes too loud or disruptive, the Sentinel will stop the ceremony, issue a verbal warning, and move their rifle into the ready position.
It is requested that all visitors maintain an atmosphere of silence and respect at all times.
If the person continues to act inappropriately, the tomb guard is authorized and expected to take violent action. The Tomb of the Unknown Soldier is a place where respect must be accorded to our heroes past, and those who fail to understand that will quickly learn the importance of honoring this sacred tomb.
It is requested that all visitors maintain an atmosphere of silence and respect